The time is precisely 1:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Catherine Pereira and read by Chandima Virakon. Headlines. The prices of urea fertilizer will be reduced by another 1,000 rupees with effect from the 15th of this month. There will be no threat to the national security by privatizing the Sri Lanka Telecom Institute. President Ranil Wickremesinghe to meet Paris Club creditors next week. The government has decided to introduce a new draft bill as a Special Election Ordinance Act. Special 3-day dengue control program within the Western Province. India's Health Ministry denies major breach. Local stories in detail. Minister Mahinda Amaraweera says that the prices of urea fertilizer will be reduced by another 1,000 rupees with effect from the 15th of this month. He further said that the prices of Bandi fertilizer has already been reduced by 4,500 rupees. The mud fertilizer will be provided to the farmers free of charge for the Maha season cultivation. Meanwhile, the government has allocated 70 million rupees to pay compensation for the damages that have been caused to the paddy cultivation in the Yalla season last year. The compensation is to be given for 3,499 farmers. Director General of Telecommunication Regulatory Commission, Professor Rohan Samarajiva says that there will be no threat to the national security by privatizing the Sri Lanka Telecom Institute. The report published by the Sectorial Monitoring Committee Council on National Security is baseless. Participating in the 101 dialogue program produced by the President's Media Division, it has pointed out that the word national security has become a slogan to them. President Ranil Wickremesinghe is scheduled to meet the Paris Club members next week. The head of state is due to visit France and the United Kingdom next week and will meet the Paris Club creditors during his stay in order to discuss Sri Lanka's debt crisis. The government has decided to introduce a new draft bill as the Special Election Ordinance Act. The relevant bill will be prepared, including amendments. The Cabinet has approved the proposal made by President Ranil Wickremesinghe to provide necessary advice to the lawmaker in this regard. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka has decided to revoke the Bread Ordinance number 13 of 1864, which regulates the sale of bread and prevents the adulteration of bread offered for sale. At its meeting convened yesterday, the Cabinet of Ministers approved a proposal tabled by Trade, Commerce and Food Security Minister Nalin Fernando seeking the revocation of the ordinance. The Cabinet has agreed to implement the recommendation on the ministerial subcommittee that has been appointed to promote tourism industry for the economic revival. The report comprised of 25 recommendations that have been directed by the Minister of Tourism and Land to the attention of the Cabinet. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Digital accounts can now be opened in 10 minutes. People's Bank Digital Banking, your ultimate convenience.
Continuing with local stories, the National Dengue Control Unit has announced a special 3-day dengue mosquito control program in the Western Province from tomorrow to the 16th of this month. Accordingly, the program will be conducted from tomorrow with the involvement of officials of the Ministry of Health and Security Forces personnel, including the police. Since the beginning of the year, 43,946 dengue cases have been reported, of which 21,654 or 49.9% have been reported from the Western Province. Out of the total, 28 people have succumbed to the disease. A significant number of children are among the cases as well. To conclude the local news, the headlines again. The prices of urea fertilizer will be reduced by another 1,000 rupees with effect from the 15th of this month. There will be no threat to the national security by privatizing the Sri Lanka Telecom Institute. President Ranil Wickremesinghe to meet Paris Club creditors next week. The government has decided to introduce a new draft bill as the Special Election Ordinance Act. Special 3-day dengue control program in the Western Province. That concludes the local news.
Debit card, mobile and internet banking and cardless cash accounts can now be opened in just 10 minutes with no form filling with People's Bank Digital Banking.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
And on the main news story, 60,000 metric tons of urea will be imported during this month, Director of the National Fertilizer Secretariat Office, Chandana Lakuliyana, said at the stock of fertilizer which has reached the Colombo port is being unloaded. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight. The health authorities have raised concerns after multiple cases of lumpy skin disease, a viral disease that rapidly spreads among cattle, were reported in parts of the central province. The Animal Production and Health Department says the situation has affected dairy production in the central province. The department's Central Provincial Director, Dr. R.M.K.P. Rajanayaka, told that relevant officials should swing into action to take the situation under control. According to Dr. Rajanayaka, a number of cases of lumpy skin disease were reported from Ragala and Kotmale in Nuwara Elia district, Harispattuwa Udunuwara and Pujapitiya in Kandy district, Dambulla, Vilgamua and Galevela in Matale district. That ends Watchlight. We move on to the world news now, the headlines. India's health ministry denies major breach. Australian police say that the bus driver was driving too fast. Massive Russian missile attack on Ukraine's Kryvyi city. The Indian Health Ministry has denied reports of a major leak of personal data from its COVID vaccination database. In a statement, it said, all such reports are without any basis and mischievous in nature, but it has offered an official investigation into the matter. The Health Ministry's CoWIN database contains the personal details of millions of people. The man driving a bus that crashed, killing 10 and injuring at least 20 in Australia, was allegedly going too fast in foggy conditions, police say. The bus was carrying passengers returning from a wedding on Sunday when it overturned at a roundabout near the town of Greta in New South Wales. Many of the victims are connected to tight-knit rural sporting clubs, local media have reported. The crash is one of Australia's deadliest road incidents. The 58-year-old bus driver has been charged with multiple counts of dangerous driving and negligence after being arrested yesterday. At least 3 people have been killed and 25 wounded in a massive missile attack by Russia on civilian buildings in the central Ukrainian city of Kryvyi, according to local officials. A multi-story residential building was among the civilian infrastructure hit in the early morning attack, said Serhiy Lysak, governor of the region where Kryvyi is located. A 5-story building got destroyed. According to initial reports, 3 of its residents died. 25 people were injured. Lysak said on the Telegram messaging apply early this morning. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky offered his condolences to the families of those killed in the attack. To conclude the world news, the headlines again. India's health ministry denies a major breach. Australian police say that the driver was going too fast. Massive Russian missile attack on Ukrainian Kryvyi city. That ends the world news.
Development News is brought to you by
Vacancies for women from Deshak, Lanka for housemaids in Kuwait, Oman and Saudi Arabia for ages 23 to 58 years. Contact number 037 7500 500.
Moving on with the development news, construction work of 9 housing projects for the persons who are working in state and private sector will be expedited. The project is being initiated by the Urban Development Authority and the Ministry of Housing. The Urban Development Authority has allocated more than 10 billion rupees for this purpose. That ends development news.
Vacancies for women from Deshakti Lanka for housekeepers, home cooks, caretakers and home nurses in Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia and Singapore for ages 23 to 57 years. Salary starting from 156,000 rupees. Interviews with foreign agents are now on. Come whether you have a passport or not. Branches, Colombo, Kurunagala, Anuradhapura and Matara. Contact number 0377 500 500.
Moving on to the sports news. Today is the second day of the unofficial Test cricket match being played between Sri Lanka A-team and visiting South African A-team in Pallekele. Batting first, Sri Lanka team scored 325 all out. South Africa scored 55 runs for 2 wickets when the match was halted due to rain. That ends the sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න
The all new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
And on the business news, Brandix Apparel Limited today handed over the fully renovated blood bank facility to the District General Hospital in Negombo. The renovation was coordinated and managed by Brandix Essentials in Katunayaka. Previously, the blood bank at the Negombo District General Hospital and its functions were spread out across multiple locations within the hospital, and through this initiative, all its functions were brought under one facility, affording greater convenience and ease to donors, patients and staff at the hospital. That ends the business news.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න
The all new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
And on economic news, Standard Chartered Sri Lanka clinched 2 awards at the Asset AAA Treasuries Awards 2023. In addition to the Best Payments and Collection Solution award received under the New Economy Solutions category for the recently implemented Interbank Instant Payment Application Programming Interface for PICMI, a brand of digital mobility solutions Sri Lanka Private Limited, Devaka Vijayadoru, Head of Global Implementation Transaction Banking of Standard Chartered Sri Lanka, was awarded AAA Implementation Manager of the Year. That ends the economic news.
Weather report.
And finally, we take a look at the weather report. The Department of Meteorology says showers or thunder showers are expected in western and Sabaragamu provinces and in Galle and Matara districts. Accordingly, fairly heavy showers of about 75 millimeters are likely at some places in these areas. Several spells of showers will occur in the northwestern and central provinces. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in Uva province and in Ampara and Batikla districts during the evening or at night. Strong winds of about 40 to 45 kilometers per hour can be expected at times in the western slopes of the central hills. The general public is advised to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. That ends the weather report. And to conclude this bulletin of news, the headlines again. The prices of urea fertilizer will be reduced by another 1,000 rupees with effect from the 15th of this month. There will be no threat to the national security by privatizing the Sri Lanka Telecom Institute. President Ranil Wickremesinghe to meet Paris Club creditors next week. The government has decided to introduce a new draft bill as a Special Election Ordinance Act. Special 3-day dengue control program in the Western Province. And on news overseas, India's Health Ministry denies major breach. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.